Hello and welcome to the Free Education Project. I'm Dr. Mitchel Goodkin. As a nationally board certified science teacher with over 20 years of educational experience, I've realized there are many children all over the world who could benefit from all the years of lessons I've created. I'm recording them for free use by anyone, regardless of ethnicity, region, religion, or politics. I'm committed to the belief that as adults, it is our responsibility to prepare children to improve the world so they might grow and lead happy, healthy lives. Please, if you have a pencil and paper, take notes. If you live in an area where supplies are scarce, just pay attention. Let's learn. Hello, everyone. When we last spoke, we calculated volume. And if you remember, the formula for volume is V equals L times W times H. Volume equals length times width times height. And I told you last time that we were going to use volume to calculate density. So let's talk about density. Density is when it's the amount of weight, the amount of mass that something has in relationship to its size. So have you ever picked something up and you thought it was going to be really, really heavy, and you pick it up and you're like, oh, it's light? Or you find something really small and you pick it up and you're like, wow, this is heavy. I didn't expect this to be heavy. Well, that's what density is. Density is how much it weighs and how much space it takes up. So we're going to look at the formula for density. We're going to learn how to calculate density. And then later on, we're going to do some interesting stuff where we figure out how density helps us. So let's go straight to the PowerPoint and let's take a look at how do we calculate density. Hey, I wonder, how do I calculate the density of an object? Calculating density is easy. Just follow some simple steps. Step 1, write down the formula for density. So here's the formula for density. And again, if you have something to write with, write it down. If not, just pay attention. D equals M over V. Capital D for density equals lowercase m for mass divided by lowercase v for volume. Density equals mass divided by volume. D equals M over V. Step 2, find the mass. Well, how do I do that? Use a triple beam balance scale. In science, we use something called a triple beam balance scale, which gives us very accurate measurements of how much something weighs, how much the mass is. And that's a triple beam balance scale right there. Whoop, did you see it? Hey, did you? Never mind. Okay, so good. So now we fill in that number into our formula. So for example, pretend we got 32 grams. So we would write D equals 32.0, don't forget the 0.0, it's important, and the units G for gram over V. And notice how we're lining up equal signs. That's important also. So the equal signs line up. Just like when we did volume, the equal signs lined up, the equal signs need to line up in density also. And now we need to find the volume. How do we do that? Well, we use the formula V equals L times W times H. And I write down that formula in place of V. So we take out the V and we put L times W times H, length times width times height. That's what we did in our last lesson. So D equals M over V equals D equals M over length times width times height. It's the same thing. We're just expanding it out. So excellent. So now how do I find the length, width, and height? And we would measure them with a metric ruler, of course. There's the ruler. Something's weird. Did you see that fly in, fly out? Okay, so now we can measure. So D equals M over V, which is D equals mass over volume. And then we find out the mass on a triple beam balance scale. So D equals 32.0 grams over volume. Then we take out the volume and we put in the formula, which is length times width times height. So D equals 32.0 grams over length times width times height. And then when we measure the object with our metric ruler, we get 4.0 centimeters by 4.0 centimeters by 4.0 centimeters. And remember, if all three dimensions are exactly the same, that's a cube, that's a perfect cube. So we got density equals 32.0 grams over 4.0 centimeters times 4.0 centimeters times 4.0 centimeters. Excellent, now do the math. That's cool, because I love doing math. Let's see. So density equals mass over volume. Density equals 32.0 grams over volume. We take out the V and we put in L times W times H, so 32.0 grams over length times width times height, which gives us 32.0 grams over 4.0 times 4.0 times 4.0, because I measured that with the ruler. So equals 32.0 grams over 64.0 centimeters cubed. And don't forget that we have to have the centimeters cubed. And then when we actually do the math, density equals to 0.5 grams over centimeters cubed. Now, it's very important here, the centimeters cubed doesn't go away. So when we talk about units, when we measure with a ruler, our units are centimeters, right? And when we measure with a scale, our units are grams. And when we calculate volume, our units are centimeters cubed. Well, the units for density is grams over centimeters cubed. And you will always have that unit there. It's G over cm3, and that's always going to be your unit. So when you do the math, you get 0.5, and then you must have the G over cm3. So grams over centimeters cubed, because if you don't have that, you're not telling people it's density. And then here are some sample questions that you could do at home. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sample questions you could do at home. I'm going to leave this up here for a while. You can copy it down. And then if you know the answer, send us an email or send a private message, and then we will be able to know if you are following along. And if you made any mistakes, we'll help you correct them. Thank you for your attention. That concludes this lesson from the Free Learning Project. Thank you for sharing this learning experience with me. Sometimes it's unclear what the practical day-to-day use of a lesson might be. However, much of the learning process is really a way of disciplining and training our minds. It teaches us how to learn, and that prepares us for whatever lesson might come tomorrow. We would like to thank the Hocus Pocus Children's FUN-dation Incorporated for sponsoring this programming. Put your whole hearts in and turn some lives around. Thank you.